And we're very, very pleased to have Richard with us. And I said I would introduce him, that he's tall, dark, and handsome. Would you please welcome to the MES stage, Richard Schulman. Tall, dark, and handsome.
So I was told there were going to be about 50 people here, and there are more. Let me start by saying why I'm here, and it's because David Childs, many years ago, introduced me to Vin Cipolla, and Vin has been looking for a venue for me for a long time, and my book came out, and he said, would you like to do a talk? So that's the only reason I'm here, because of Vin's generosity. The other thing is that I have this new book out, and this book is the second book. The first book was Volume 1, both with introductions by Paul Goldberger. And I'm working on books right this second about New York. I figured since I live here, that's a pretty good idea. And because I have this really funny feeling that most of you don't know me. So I'll give you a quick summation. I was mentored by the photographer in LA, Julius Schulman, for probably about 35 years. I was his assistant, but I hated him. So it was better to be it was much better to be mentored by him. And it took him over almost 30 years before he actually told me he liked my photographs. But he stayed with me all this time, and I learned precision from him. And in a way, that's how I jumped here. But the other thing is, by the way, these first set of pictures are just from the street. The next set of pictures are from the first book, and the third set of pictures are from my present book. But my life is actually more interesting, I think, than the photographs, even though I love these things. It's the voices and the moments in my life that have really defined me. Because this is the Art Society, the voices in my life who've mentored me, assisted me, given me direction, aside from Julius, who's in LA, but Andre Kertész, Gordon Parks, Andreas Weininger, Roy Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol, Basquiat, opera singers, musicians, everyone in culture who I photographed, who are in the thousands. But I found a happier place. And the happier place is in architecture and design. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can be quiet. I can just have this moment, and the buildings talk to me. But all these people in my life have introduced me to another person, and they've given me a window. And I'm not really sure where the first window was, but one of the better windows was that Richard Meyer introduced me to Philip Johnson. But before Richard Meyer made that introduction, Richard toured me around the Getty Museum and said, I want you to do something exciting with this building. This is your canvas. Do something. And so from that moment forward to the time he introduced me to Philip, I was just shooting randomly for various clients. And then I met Philip. And then Philip said, you need to do books. I want you to be, which I think was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but anyway, I like to say it anyway. I want you to be architecture's Irving Penn. He already knew Irving Penn was my hero, so it was a natural thing for him to say. So we created something together where he introduced me to, I'd already met Frank Gehry, but Rem Koolhaas, Zaha, Herzog and Moran, Peter Zumthor, all the Pritzker Prize people who I've photographed and all of their work. And it's defined the way I look at the world. And I've been fortunate through these books and other mediums to photograph architecture, but through cities. I've been traveling to cities around the world, and if you've ever seen Ian Fleming's, or read Ian Fleming's The Thrilling Cities, that's me. I run from city to city to look, and I follow the labyrinth of cities looking for a moment. And I read something just the other day which sort of defines me in a way. It's a little bit abstract, but Jeffrey Dyer wrote a beautiful book about jazz, and he described Duke Ellington riding along the roads of the United States in the dark and composing music. And when I'm on trek to visit a building, have a destination, I'm already composing what that building's going to look like. And when I read that about Duke Ellington, I felt like I wasn't insane. Because there's a little insanity to be talking to yourself about what you're going to do in a couple days when the plane arrives or something and you've never seen the building. And so that's been my agenda, to discover, to find. By the way, I like to say this is the only picture of Philip in the glass house where you see the entire glass house. Well, we're here for a second. Tom Main's building in Los Angeles, the Diamond Ranch School. And now these are my new pictures. This is the cover. This is the museum that Fernando Romero did in Mexico City. And this is Bjarke Ingels in Copenhagen. For the past 8 years, I've been part of Greg Lynn's graduate review class up at Yale. And the reviewers are usually a very illustrious group of people. The first time I went to this review at Yale, in the audience was Frank Gehry, Zaha, Wolf Pricks, Tom Main, Peter Eisenman, Robert Stern, of course, and a bunch of other people. And they all knew me because I'd all photographed their buildings and photographed them. And they looked at me and said to Greg in front of me, they said, "What is he doing here?" And Peter Eisenman, the more forceful of the voices, said, "He's just a photographer." So Greg says, "Do you have any rebuttal to that?" And you know, there's the students, there's these 12 people, and I didn't really know what to say, but I believe what I said then is true now. I said, without me, the photographer, there wouldn't be any star architects. There wouldn't be any great architecture, because we are the ones, we photographers and everyone on Flickr, are the ones that define the understanding of your buildings. Santiago Calatrava spoke earlier, and I listened to him, and when I photographed him, his wife told me I had 15 minutes, and I had 3 hours, because he wanted to tell me about his art. And I told him that your art has, I know this is what you want me to know, Santiago, which I do, but when I get to the building, it's not your art, it's your heart that I need to know so that I understand how that we collaborate here to photograph a building. Almost every building I've photographed that's been published has been a result of a really interesting collaboration between me and the architect. Whether it was Charles Guathmy on the phone, when I was looking at a previous picture of Calatrava's Milwaukee Museum, staring at it, and he asked me what I was doing. I told him, he said, "But you got to photograph my building, it's so much more beautiful." But it wasn't, but still. But Charles was lovely, and he was fantastic, and a great friend. But it's the voices of these individuals that have shaped me and introduced me to this world where I get to make an expression. So in New York, I'm up every day shooting the streets, finding new buildings, trying to define what the expression should be. And because of the nature of this event, and not knowing what to say before I got here, but thinking about what the nature of this event was about, the one thing that gets me is that I love all these new high-rises that are coming because I get to make some money and take some photographs. But truly, I think the one thing that I may say before I get off here is that I think the governments in the state and the city are a little bit errant in their agenda, and that is, we're doing a lot of band-aiding right now, even though it's expensive. But Mario Cuomo in the 80s and the administration came up with an amazing amazing master plan for transportation. Subways, tunnels, bridges, ferries, to bring us into the real 21st century. What we're doing now won't get us there in our lifetime. And if there's one thing I can hopefully contribute to this afternoon is that is I hope that you think about. Because I make photographs today for the future to show them about our past. And I'm hoping that when I get to the future, we get to see something really exciting in the infrastructure of our city. Thank you very much.